Your kids are not going to remember if you were strong. I need you to actually hear that. Because most of us are trying to kill ourselves, trying to be the one thing they won't remember. A few nights ago, I was running on nothing. I worked all day, came home and started packing boxes for a move I'm trying to pull off while trying to figure out how to build something that lets me actually be home. I was bone tired, and my daughter asked me to put her to bed. I could have phoned it in. Some nights I have, but we wrestled, we read books, we laughed. And out of nowhere, not because I'd done anything special, not because I had it together, she looked at me and said, "I love you, Dad." I wasn't strong that night. I had nothing left. I was just there. And I'm betting that's the part she remembers. Not the life I was trying to build while exhausted. Not whether I had everything handled. I hope she'll remember the moment she laughed until she snorted. Now, I'm not on the other side of this with the answers. I'm a dad of two, in the middle of it, same as you. We're all making the same bet. But in a few minutes, I'm going to show you a cartoon robot's death that made a generation of grown men cry, and why it wasn't his strength that did it. It's the same thing my daughter was teaching me at bedtime. Some of these characters, a god of war, a cartoon dog, a Sith Lord, have been trying to teach us this our whole lives. Your kids will remember if you were strong. They'll remember if you were there, and what they saw when you didn't think they were looking. This is Disassembled Heroes and Villains, and this is the kind of father your kids will actually remember. Kratos ended an entire pantheon. He killed the Greek gods one by one. Ares, Poseidon, Hades, and finally his own father, Zeus. By the time we find him in the Norse realms, there's almost nothing in any world that stands in front of him, and none of it is what his son needs. Atreus doesn't need a god of war, he needs a dad. The whole game is this impossibly powerful man learning, slow, and against everything in his nature, that the thing he's better at than anyone alive is not the thing the boy in front of him is asking for. And he holds it back. Every instinct says dominate, win, just end it. And instead, he gets down to a kid's eye level and says one word, boy. He teaches when it would be easier to kill. He restrains when his whole history is rage. He calls him boy through most of the first game, not because he can't say son, because he can't say it yet. To understand why that's so hard for him, look at the men and the children on either side of him. His own father, Zeus, looked at his son and saw only a threat, and tried to kill him for it. A father who wanted him gone. And Kratos had a child before Atreus, a daughter, Calliope. He has buried a child before. He carries their ashes on his skin. The ghost of Sparta is what grief made of him. So when he kneels down to Atreus and chooses restraint over power, it's not a small thing. It's a man abandoned by a father who wanted him dead, who already buried one child, deciding the chain stops here, with this boy, this time. And the thing that scares him the most isn't a monster, it's being seen, letting Atreus know he's afraid, that he doesn't have it figured out yet. Kratos would rather fight a god than let his own son look at him that closely. There's a moment where Atreus messes up and spirals into shame, and Kratos tells him, do not be sorry, be better. It's not a line about how to control your power. It's the most dangerous man alive handing his son the one thing all that strength could never give back. What brings it back to you. You probably are strong. You hold the job. You stay level when it goes sideways. You carry things they'll never know about. That's real, and I'm not taking it from you. Kratos could level a mountain. What Atreus remembered was the day his father knelt down and chose not to. Kratos is one kind of father. Bandit Healer is the complete opposite. We're going from a god who ended Olympus to a cartoon dog, but stay with me. It's the same idea, just from a completely different world. If you've got little kids, you already know Bluey, and if you're a dad watching it with them, you've probably had the same quiet realization I did. The show isn't just for kids, it's for us too. There's an episode called Stickbird. The family's at the beach and Bandit is off. Something's eating at him. The show never tells you what. Could be work, could be money, could be nothing he can name. He's just carrying something heavy, and he can't shake it. His wife tells him to let go, that he's missing all this. His kids notice their dad isn't himself. But here's what he doesn't do. He doesn't fake being fine. He doesn't paste on a smile and pretend the weight isn't there. But he also doesn't dump it on them. He doesn't make his daughters responsible for fixing his mood. He just stays in it, honestly, where they could see him. And even drained, he gets up and builds a sandcastle with his daughter. A stickbird. He's running on empty and he gets down in the sand and does it anyway. Then some kids run by and wreck it. Bingo's crushed and Bandit, still carrying his own thing, watches his daughter learn to gather up the hurt and throw it out into the ocean. And at the end, alone for a second, he does it himself. The same move, he picks up everything he's been carrying all day and he throws it into the sea. His kids watch their father struggle with something real, sit in it without pretending, and chose to let it go. They didn't see a man with no problems. They saw a man handling his. There's nothing inherently impressive about a tired dad at the beach. But that's the whole point. What they keep isn't the highlight reel. It's that on the day he had nothing left, he was still there, still honest, still theirs. And they saw it when he didn't think it counted. So you have to show up tired. That's all your job is. Kratos held his strength back. Bandit let himself be seen. The next one is about what actually survives after you and what your kids take from you after you're gone. 1986, Hasbro greenlights an animated Transformers movie, and in a move to launch a new era of toys, they decide to kill Optimus Prime. If you didn't grow up with this, you need to understand what Optimus was to a generation of kids. He wasn't just a character, he was the father. The steady one, the voice that told you what was right and then went and did it himself, the one whose whole code was that freedom is the right of all sentient beings, and who put his body in front of yours to prove he meant it. And in the middle of the movie, in front of a theater full of children who had never once considered the possibility, he dies. He and Megatron tear each other apart at the Battle of Autobot City. Optimus goes down and he ends up on a table, dying, with the soldiers gathered around him. The man who wrote that scene understood exactly what it meant. He said removing Optimus Prime meant removing Daddy from the family, and he fought it. He told Hasbro they'd have to bring him back. They said no, they had new toys to sell, so the father got killed off over the writer's objections to move merchandise. And it didn't matter why they did it, because what landed on those kids wasn't a marketing decision. It was the death of the steadiest father they had. Optimus spends his last moments on one thing, not the battle, not revenge, not even Megatron. He places his faith in the next generation. He opens his chest, takes out the matrix of leadership, the thing that makes a leader, and he gives it away. Then his last words, "Till all are one." And the color drains out of him, that famous red and blue fading to gray, and he's gone. A generation of grown men can tell you exactly where they were sitting when that happened. They cried in the theater over a cartoon robot, and it wasn't because he was strong. He was one of the strongest characters they'd ever seen, but it's not his strength they clung to. What really hit them was the passing of the torch. That with his last breath, the thing he cared about wasn't winning. It was making sure the ones coming after him knew they could carry it, even when they didn't feel worthy, especially then. Think about your own father. Not what he did for a living, not what he provided. What do you actually remember? When you really go looking, it's almost never the thing he probably thought he'd be remembered for. It's some small, ordinary moment he may not even know mattered. The way he reacted when you broke something, whether you came to the event or you didn't, what his face did when you walked in the room. That's what gets handed down. Not the money, not the achievements, but the way a man carries himself when the weight is on him. His kids feel that, and they keep it. And now you're the one being remembered. Your kids are watching you the same way right now, not to see whether you win, but to see how you carry it. They're going to inherit the way you handle a hard day. It becomes their definition of what a man does when things get heavy. Optimus didn't leave behind a victory. He left behind proof that the weight could be carried, and faith that the next one was ready to carry it. That's what your kids are going to hold on to. Bandit shows you it's okay to let your kids see you carry something. Optimus shows us what we pass down, but there's a line, and it's an important one. And Finding Nemo is a whole movie about never crossing that line. Before Finding Nemo even gets going, Marlin loses almost everything. A barracuda takes his wife and every egg they had, except one. That one survivor has a small, damaged fin. They call it his lucky fin, but it's really a scar from the day everything else was taken. And that loss rewires Marlin to a specific kind of father. The terrified kind. The kind who manages every risk, controls every variable, hovers over every moment. Not because he's weak, but because he's scared. And he loves that fish more than his own life. But here's the problem. Marlin's fear isn't staying in Marlin. Every warning, every don't, every you can't do that, Nemo takes it in. The boy starts to believe what his father's fear is quietly teaching him. That he's fragile. That the world is too dangerous for him. That he can't survive in it. Marlin thinks he's protecting his son, but what he's actually doing is handing his son the fear that he carries. And eventually, Nemo can't take it. He swims out to the boat to prove he's not what his dad's panic says he is, and that's when he gets taken. The overprotecting caused the exact thing Marlin was trying to prevent. Then comes the line that turns the whole film. Deep in the search, he's exhausted. Marlin says out loud, "I promised I'd never let anything happen to him." And Dory says, "That's a funny thing to promise. You can't never let anything happen to him. that nothing would ever happen to him. Because here's the part most of us get wrong. We hear let your kids see you struggle, and we overcorrect into handing them the struggle itself. There's a world of difference between the two. Your kids can see you're tired. They should not be the ones carrying the reason you're tired. A 4-year-old should not be holding your fear about the mortgage. They can watch you sit with something hard, watch you pray, watch you take a breath before you answer. That teaches them a man can hold weight without coming apart. But the weight stays yours. Letting them seize it builds them. Making them carry it breaks them. It's the same instinct but an opposite outcome. And the only difference is whether you keep the weight on your own back. Marlin loved his son enough to nearly lose him. What finally saved them both was the moment he stopped trying to seal Nemo off from every danger and trusted him to swim. That's the dad they remember, not the one who kept them from everything, but the one who let them see him afraid and didn't make them responsible for it. Kratos held his strength back. Bandit let himself be seen. Optimus passed it on. Marlin learned where the line was. The last one is for the father who's already gotten it wrong, who's been the wrong kind of dad for years and is scared it's too late. Darth Vader is the most famous example in film of a man who chose the mask. Think about who he was. The most powerful figure in the galaxy. Armored head to toe, a mechanical voice, every weak point sealed behind black steel. Nobody ever saw Anakin Skywalker again. There was just the suit, the breathing, the power. He spent his whole life making sure no one could ever see his face. He became invincible, untouchable, a man no one would actually ever know. And it cost him everything. His wife, his children, raised by other people, decades on the wrong side of everything he could have been. The mask kept him safe, and it kept him completely alone. He became a father who pretended to be invincible his whole life, who never let anyone see the man underneath, who taught the people who love him that they were actually never going to know him. But that's not where the story ends. At the very end, his son refuses to give up on him. Luke tells him there's still good in him. In the last minutes of his life, Vader makes a choice. He turns on the Emperor, saves his son, and takes a mortal wound doing it. Then he asks for the one thing he denied everyone his entire life. He says, "Luke, help me take this mask off." Luke tells him he'll die, and Vader just says, "Nothing can stop that now. Just for once, let me look on you with my own eyes." Not the mask's eyes, his own. Luke takes it off piece by piece, and underneath is just a man. He's pale, scared, tired, a father looking at his son with his actual face for the first and only time. And he says, "You were right about me." He dies minutes later. So yes, it costs him. He doesn't get years to make it right. He gets one moment. But here's what that moment proves, and why I put it last. The mask can come off, even at the very end. Even after a lifetime of wearing it, the most armored man in the galaxy took his off and became a father in the last breath he had. And his son held onto that for the rest of his life. Not the armor, the face. So if you've been the dad in the mask, the one who's always fine, always strong, never tired, never scared, never quite reachable, you need to hear this. You are not out of time. Vader was, and it still counted, but you're not. You can take the mask off tonight, at bedtime, at dinner, the next time your kid asks you something real and you normally give them the armored answer. Let them see your face. That's what they actually will remember. 5 characters, one thing they're all circling. Kratos was the strongest man in any room, and what his son needed was the moment he knelt down and held it back. Bandit was running on empty and got down on the sand anyway, and let his kids see him do it. Optimus spent his last breath making sure the ones coming after him knew they could carry the weight. Marlin almost lost his son trying to protect him from everything, and only saved him by trusting him to swim. And Vader, the most armored man in the galaxy, took the mask off at the very end and let his son see his actual face. Strength you hold back, struggle you don't hide, the weight you hand down on purpose, and the weight you refuse to hand down at all. And the mask finally coming off. None of that required you to be a better man than you are tonight. Every one of those fathers was tired, or scared, or grieving, or already failing. Not one of them got there by being strong enough. They got there by being there, and by letting the people they love see them while they carried it. And the good news, the thing that should take the weight off your chest, is that it's so much more reachable than the thing you've been killing yourself trying to be. There's a line in Psalms, "As a father has compassion on his children, the Lord has compassion on those who fear him." You don't earn that compassion by performing. It's given, because you're his, and the way you father your own kids is supposed to be a small echo of that. Not a standard you're failing, but a grace you get to pass down. You're already loved as a son. You get to love them the same way. As of this recording, tomorrow's Father's Day. And tomorrow, someone's going to reach out. a kid who climbs into your bed, or a grown one who calls. You don't have to wake up to be a different man. You don't have to be stronger, or have it more figured out, or finally get it together. Your kids won't remember if you were strong. They'll remember if you were there, and what they saw when you didn't think they were looking. So show up tired. That's not you doing it wrong. That's your job. And with that, stay disciplined, stay present, stay faithful, and as always, stay handsome.